Hello and welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name is Cole. This is Gavin, and today we have somebody straight out of Shirt Show, Dylan. Gavin, you want to say anything before we allow Dylan the microphone?
I'm a little nervous right now. I'm a
Yeah.
little nervous because I'm in the presence of a star. Welcome to T-Shirt Business Podcast. Gavin, founder of SAPS. Oh, what do you got in mind?
I mean, more than anything, you've basically become the Tim Ferriss of T-shirts at this point. So you're just doing unbelievable amount of shows. What are you at, like 150 or something now?
Yeah, I think in like a week or two, we're at 3 years of every Monday. And then I did 20 weeks before that with my own, and I had you on. And yeah, dude, it's been a while. Funny thing is like when I first started with the Upstate podcast, the only two podcasts even remotely on the screen printing radar, in my opinion, I'm sure there was like some guy barely doing it or something, but it was you and two regular guys. But you were more like I do a podcast episode when I feel like it kind of guy, right? Like you weren't doing like a Monday.
What I do. I think
like you were like, because I remember I listened to yours and it was like, okay, there's one here, and then like 3 months later there's another one, and then like a week later there's another one.
It feels like this thing that accidentally worked in a lot of ways, and it kind of just keeps sitting there. So like we have these episodes that have sat there at this point for like 5 years, and I go back to them and I look at it and it's like there's 25,000 downloads of it, and I'm like, oh, I really have to actually do this consistently.
The funny thing is like when I did mine, I was solely doing it on my own. Like I did the Zoom, I did all the marketing stuff, I did, and to me it was just like but it was like the hardest part of the whole deal was the editing. I could record an episode for an hour or 2 hours, whatever, and then on Saturday it took me like 6 hours to like go through and edit it and then make like the YouTube thumbnail and like all this other stuff. And I did like the 20 episodes. At the end of the 20 was when I started talking to Andy about like, hey, we should do this together. And we did Shirt Show. And I was always thinking of just still doing mine, but doing Shirt Show too, to see like which one kind of worked out or what people liked more. And then the thing with me and Andy, it just took off a little bit and got some legs. But the funny thing is when I talked to Andy about doing a podcast, I was like, the one thing I don't want to do if we're going to do this is editing.
Yeah.
If we can get a third party to do the producing, the editing, all that stuff, then hell yeah, it's a cakewalk. So that's kind of when we got Chad. It's me and Andy and Chad. Like it's not like me and Andy and we pay somebody to do editing. It's like the three of us are like a three-way partnership.
Yeah.
And it's nice because he's just as invested as we are.
At this point, how much has Shirt Show become, like if you had to all of a sudden run Shirt Show like a business, is it starting to feel like it actually could become some sort of standalone business? Or does it still feel like it works because you're in the industry and so you're talking about the industry? You know, at some point, like the way kind of like Lee Stewart's done it, where basically his entire job is content.
Yeah.
Have you started to see that kind of shift over?
It has been for a while. Like we have enough sponsors and we have enough like stuff going on with it that, I mean, me and Andy don't really consider it that. Like we're doing it for fun.
Yeah.
But like Chad does it for money because he doesn't own a screen printing shop. He doesn't work at a screen printing shop at all anymore. Like he does photos with his wife. So to him, it's like he's doing the work behind the scenes, and me and Andy are doing it for fun. I say it's fun, but it's selfish too, because like it's not, I guess it's not selfish, but it's like I get the opportunity to talk to rad dudes in my industry that tell me all of their thoughts and secrets every week. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, as a listener, you get that too. I do it every week and I'm having a conversation with someone. I mean, most of them would probably open up if I just sent them a DM, but to sit down for like 3 hours and be like, let me ask you everything I want to know.
Yeah.
And then they gladly tell me. To me, that's the benefit. I like interviewing people that have nuggets of information I get to take back to my own screen printing shop and be like, oh, cool, I get to implement this and everything else. So
yeah, I mean, if you have a popular platform, I think that's one of the big perks of doing what you're doing. Like you probably could text somebody or DM them. If you wasn't who you are now, they would probably just, your priority level probably would not be where it is right now, right?
To a degree, like that's the other thing too. Like I was doing stuff with M&R for a while, like where I would go do like a shop tour thing or whatever. And the benefit from that was that they were like, hey, do you want to go to Utah and like hang out at these shops? It's like, hell yeah, Utah's amazing. This sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But the other thing though too is it's like there's these huge shops like which I'm friends with now, like Design Inc. and stuff in Utah, where it's like massive shop, like, you know, like in the 20s and 30s or whatever autos, and like all these, you know, they have everything there, like all the toys you would want. Like if I was just Joe Screen Printer and I walked up to the door and I was like, hey, will you show me all your secrets behind these doors?
Right.
They're gonna tell me to kick rocks.
Right.
But because I'm with M&R, they're like, I'll show you anything and everything you want to see.
Yeah.
And it's like, this rules.
So what do you think? I mean, having talked to all these guys, I was just listening to your Rich Santos episode because I've known him for a little while now. I was still getting stuff out of the episode that I never really got out of him in person. What do you feel like you're seeing from these guys that, like, I don't, to me, in a lot of ways, like a 1.5 or a $2 million shop is kind of like the small time, even though obviously there's also like garage printers, but you're talking about these big guys. What do you keep seeing in them that really is that differentiator between them and like the local shop with like 1 auto, 2 autos?
The funny thing is like we talk about this on the show a lot where you talk to someone like Rich and then you talk to someone that's, 2 people in a garage, like the same drive is there, the same passion is there. It's just like one decided to let their guard down and take more risks. Like there's people we talk to all the time that like you don't even know until you interview them, where you're like, they're like, oh, what do I do? It's the classic garage guy who's like, what do I do to get an auto or hire a new employee? And then you find out they've been doing it for 10 years.
I just
Like,
talked to someone who did that.
right. But you know what I mean? It's like I've been doing this since 2009 in my own shop. But before 2009, I was at another shop. So I've been doing this for a long time. And I feel like 10, 15 years or whatever, I've progressed to where I've progressed to. And then you talk to somebody who's been doing it just as long as you, and they're still like a manual in the garage. And it's like, what's the difference? The difference is that I got to bottleneck and I decided to take a risk and buy a piece of equipment or hire a person to do that thing. And the person who's still doing it at this point, either A, is just comfortable and they don't care, they just want to do what they're doing, or they just haven't taken that risk. So I feel like people like Rich, like his big thing was like he invested hard into technology, where he was just like, I want to make the best customer facing platform that they can get into and see real time stock, real time where their products are and where it's going, and like all these things that make them different from all the other merch providers. They hustle really hard to get the like Live Nation and all these other things to where then they explode because they have to.
Yeah.
Like in order to be able to handle that shit, you need this much square footage, this many employees, this and this and this. And then it's just they have the name behind them of like, oh, I do this stuff for this person.
Right.
And then that person refers you to another person who's just like them. And then you end up with like a portfolio of people that you're just like, holy shit, how did I get here?
And the funny thing about that, if you look at both of those people, they probably spending the same amount of energy in their business. As far as like time, amount of pain that they going through their business is about the same. It's really just about just switching. Hey, I want to dream bigger. I want something bigger, and like taking that action. That's like something that I've actually been heavily thinking about like recently, just like, and that's different between what I'm doing and so what the next guy doing. And let's say the next guy is bigger. The next guy is bigger mainly because they want it to be bigger and they just believed in themselves that they could do it.
I think to a degree, but it's also like we all have the same 8, 10, 12-hour day, whatever it is that you want to put into work. But it's like I'm guilty of this too. And like I literally today just installed, I don't know if you can see it, but like I just put in this like standing desk.
Yeah, cool.
And the thing is like I have like back issues, and with my back issues, sometimes it hurts and I don't feel like sitting at my desk, or I come into work before I sit down, before I have any back issues, and I'm like, hell yeah, I've got this project I want to do, and I want to do this new cool marketing thing that I plan on doing. And then I sit down at my desk and I either get distracted or my back hurts and I'm like, well, I need to keep adjusting, and then I doom scroll on Instagram and I do this and I do this and I do this. I'm actually not getting anything done. So I think the difference between these people that grow to be this monster shop is they just are better at time management.
Yep.
And they're just like, hey, I'm going to get up instead of getting up at 10 and strolling into work at 11, they're up at 4 or 5 and they get to work and they immediately have a schedule and a plan. And they're like, this is what I'm going to tackle. This is what I'm going to tackle. And then there's just the people who just are like, I don't care about that. Less employees, all this other stuff. Like, it's not even that it was more chill. It's that they were more profitable, not necessarily more profitable, but like less employees, less headaches, less worry about like the economy or disasters or anything like COVID stuff.
Yeah, I feel that stress just when we've like, especially in summers, if we like flex up to 15 employees, then I'm either figuring out, am I going to be ruthless and like lay people off immediately? Or am I going to somehow magically get clients in the dead of winter like when we slow down. So I'm always wondering like how these big guys handle that. I think a lot of the time they are just kind of ruthless about it. And there
Mm.
are just people that just go away because they were, essentially temporary labor. What are you doing now in your own shop? Like what size are you at? How many staff are there?
Again, that's another thing like I've learned just from the show, but kind of like doing on my own is like we like to stay around like 10, 12 people. And I think the 2 presses, 10 presses question really kind of helped me and Andy both like realize that like the answer is 3 presses. Like in my shop specifically, like we have our G3, so we can do all the high color count stuff. We can do just about anything on that press. And then we have the 810 Sportsman, which does your normal day to day, like, 1 to 6 color prints. And then we have a 6/8 press that does a lot of sleeves, pockets, 1, 2 color prints, stuff like that. I feel like that flow for us is perfect because the 2 main presses, the bigger presses, handle 80% of the workload, or we don't even run the third press if it's like winter and it's slow. But that third press is nice to do. Like the G3 shouldn't be doing a 1 color pocket print. It should be doing the next 12 color print.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like doing that, having the flow of like 10, 12 people to manage, which is pretty easy. And if it slows down, we just pivot and they clean and this and this. It's a lot easier to swallow payroll, some people organizing shit for a week when it's slow than it is to do like 30 people. I guess it all depends on your market too. Like if you're a big contract shop, like you need a ton of people.
Right.
If you're us, where we're doing like, bands and comic book shops and stuff that's more high color count quality stuff, then I can have a smaller crew. But the thing is, the benefit for me is like I might be making 8, 10, whatever dollars a shirt, and the contract people are doing 80 cents a shirt.
Right.
So they got to crank faster and faster to be able to pay to cover all those people. And like I can just low and slow like barbecue here, like
For
we
those
just go at our own pace.
For those kind of high margin jobs, is it because you're handling the actual merchandise itself? Are you creating the art and offering them e-commerce and putting together like a full merch package? And that's why you can justify a higher print cost? Or is it just that they feel like your print quality is the differentiator?
I think it's a little of everything. I think it's just that they don't have to worry about it. They come to us and they're like, hey, I mean, it depends on the job, obviously. Like I'm saying that high dollar amount, if it's somebody who comes in and is like, I want 100 shirts with a 12 color front and a 3 color back on it, and I need them folded, bagged, UPC, the whole thing. And it's kind of like, okay, cool. Like we'll handle the whole process. And
Right.
then sometimes they come to us like that and they're like, I need a unicorn riding a dog, shooting lasers out of its eyes, make it happen. And then we freelance the artwork to somebody who can handle it well. We get it to them, and then we get to print cool art. So like that was our model for the longest time of like, let's just do the best art we can, find the best freelancers that we can, and then customers come to us because they know they can get rad art made and we can print it really well. That was kind of like our model for a really long time. And then it still is. It's just that's kind of what we do day in and day out, is try to do fun stuff that we want to do. Like, yeah, the 1 to 2 color stuff pays the bills, but like our goal and focus is to get more and more of the like fun art for a comic book shop or something. That's the most fun.
In those kind of situations, maybe not 100 pieces, but let's say 35, 50 pieces. Are you considering, just using super color transfers or using, some other DTF source? Or are you just like, no, we're a screen printing shop, you pay us to screen print, or we're just not doing it?
We've been pretty proactive when it comes to DTF stuff. Realistically, we, again, like when COVID happened and all this other stuff, everybody decided to up their pricing and change their minimums and all this other stuff. And
Mhm.
we kind of did the same. Like we hadn't changed our prices in a while. And then we realized like, oh, ink's going up and blanks are going up and all this other stuff. Like we need to change our pricing. So we changed our pricing, and then we found out that a lot of these customers that we had that like to test the waters with certain things. We have a lot of people who will be like, I want 50 of this design. It might be like a 10 color or something. And it kind of sucks to print, but like the margins are pretty good. It just sucks to put 50 shirts on press for 10 color print. And they would test the waters with it, and they'd be like, okay, cool, my clients like it, whatever, let's do like 1,000 of them. So a lot of times now what we'll do is anything under 50 pieces that's high color count, we say, okay, we have this high quality water-based transfer or whatever, and we might send them a sample, or we'll just do it, and then we'll do a video comparison. And then they're 9 times out of 10, they don't give a shit. Like they don't care. They just want their artwork on it, and they want it to not fall off. That's the hard thing then when we're trying to be craftsmen and screen printing and everything else, is like we want to act like it's so this is the best possible way and the best quality, this and this. Yeah, I super care about quality, which is why I went through like 10 different DTF printers to find one that had really good quality, you know, and lasted. And we went through like 10 different methods of post pressing to find the best method to where it looked more like a screen print and was softer. It didn't look like a sticker.
So you're doing it.
And we're not doing the DTF in house. No, we're ordering it.
Oh, who are you using?
Well, we tried a bunch of different people, and I used different ones for different things. I know there was this company that a lot of people like to use that's overseas and everything, but I really like to keep as much in the US as possible.
Plus the
That's kind of
speed.
why I went that route. I think I'm very open-minded when it comes to this industry because there is so much like tools that you can use. I know there's the whole like digital versus screen printing thing, but it's like they both have their place for sure.
Yeah. So what is your take on that? Cole and I, we talked about that in our first episode, digital against screen printing, and it was
I
a
just
little
don't think
bit.
there
It
should
was a
be
little
an
bit of a tussle. So what
I
do you
just don't
think?
think there should be an against at all. Like there's customers that it works perfectly for, and there's customers that it doesn't work good for. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean is like you shouldn't think of it as two different things. It should be like what's best for the customer. Like the best way to think about it, and this is something that like I heard on the show too, was like we're a customer service company first and a screen printer second. So like if a customer comes to us and they're like, hey, I've got this design that's 12 colors, you know, we stand outside all day long and we don't want to sweat. It's like, okay, well, the best process I can have in a decorating industry is for me to do this as a discharge or a water-based print. And then somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I want this to be bright and bold, poly t-shirt or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, that's a low cure plastisol print.
Yeah.
And then somebody comes to me and is like, hey, I want this like full color image of my grandma's face on it, and I want 25 of them. I'm like, okay, that's digital all day long. How can I best suit the customer for what they want? So that's why here we don't just do plastisol, just do water-based, or just do digital. It's like we want to offer all the options because I'll look at every single job differently. Like I might take one job and be like, all right, we're going to do discharge underbase with plastisol, soft colors on top, just because I know that customer wants a soft feel, but they also want vibrancy in like a plastisol. It's really just what works best for them. Who gives a fuck? Like it's what the customer wants. Like stop dicking around. Just like give them what they want. Like they're the
Yeah.
ones paying you.
Speaking of that, and switching gears a little, what do you think about promo and ASI? We started offering like notebooks and mugs and stuff that obviously we don't do any of it in-house. And it's basically just you're already ordering stuff from us, so we don't necessarily want you to start looking at other companies. Are you guys doing that? And what has your experience been with like ASI in general?
I've been a stick in the mud for promo products for a really long time. And I
Yeah.
think it's just the fact of like, I know, and I literally just had this discussion with somebody this morning, and it's like, I don't necessarily want to be the jack of all trades place. Like, I want to be like known for doing quality screen printing.
Mhm.
And the thing is, too, is like, I know screen printing and embroidery go hand in hand because everybody wants 500 shirts, but they want 5 polos with a left chest embroidered, or they want some hats or whatever else. And to me, I get that way more than I get promo products. Like, I don't get it as much where people are like, hey, I want 500 shirts, but I want 50 mugs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that as often. So for me, I've married screen printing and embroidery to where like we'll offer both of those. But we do get certain customers who want promo, and it sucks to turn them down. But I feel like each one of these things that you add, like embroidery or promo products or wall wraps or signs or anything like this, is it's like it might be in the same world, but it's totally different. Like I'm not a master electrician thinking I can do really great plumbing. To me, it's like I need a master electrician and a plumber in my shop to be able to do both really well and have them both be masters at their craft. Like I don't want to say, okay, we do signs and mugs and t-shirts and this and this and this, because I feel like I'm going to half-ass all of it. My niche market, it's not as big of a thing. Like I don't really have people asking for that. And most of my clients want to come to us for the screen printing. And if they order promo products from somebody else, then I guess they order products from somebody else.
I kind of know it because I think we had a short conversation about this in person at one of the trade shows. Yeah, tell us a little bit about you. How'd you get into like the industry? How'd you become this guy?
I got into it when I was 17, was in a band, and my girlfriend at the time was really into craft stuff, and you know, she had her own Etsy and all this other stuff, and she ordered 1-inch buttons for something, and I can't remember what the cost was. Say it was like $60 or something. A order of buttons, and the bag fit like in her hand. It was just like, 1-inch buttons. And I was like, that seems really expensive to make that product. Like, what is this? And then I immediately went online in like just research mode, and I found like a button maker and all the parts and everything else. I was like, I'm going to do this because I could sell this to the bands that we play with. Like, I could sell buttons. So I bought that stuff. I started a button company called Merch Buttons, and I worked in the basement, and basically I worked at Sears and installed appliances in the day, and then at night I did emails and pushed my button company. And then it got to the point where I hired my friends to press buttons for me, and I just did like the sales and marketing and all that stuff. And then I talked to my buddy Ben Landy, who did design stuff for a lot of Hot Topic stuff, and he was like, oh, you should also offer like stickers and t-shirts. Like, that's the same kind of people that would order buttons. I went to Contagious Graphics and got stickers made, and then I found Terminus in Georgia to print the shirts because he was near Ben, and I was doing really well selling t-shirts. Like, I was regular on it, and I sent everything over to them and got really friendly with them, and they basically were like, hey, we'd like to buy your button company. Like, this was just an offer. Like, I think it was late at night, I was probably playing Call of Duty and talking to them. They were like, what would you think if we bought your button company and moved you to Georgia and you just became like head of sales? And I was like, I got nothing else going on. Sounds good. So I sold the button company. I literally got married the next day after I got married, got in a U-Haul and drove to Georgia. And then I worked there for like 2 years, and I did really well. I learned a lot about sales, learned how to talk to really big clients. I also learned how to deal with people walking in the door because it was in Atlanta. So it was like a constant flow of people walking in. Down there, it's like a totally different world for me.
Yeah.
And so I decided to move back home in 2009. And I started Upstate in the 1-car garage. And then after a year, we outgrew that super fast. I bought the building I'm in, ended up with like 4 manuals and 2 dryers, and then got the first auto, and then got the second auto, and grew to where we are today. Bought everything in cash for the most part. All my equipment, my building, everything's paid for. And I just hang out with my friends all day and print t-shirts.
You talked about getting really good at sales. Besides accepting an order that's coming straight in the door, how are you handling like the outside sales? How do you approach without just coming off as like a weird cold salesperson saying I want your money also?
Really thinking about it or like whatever, I was just always focused on like 1 or 2 markets because I was in a band. I focused on bands. Like, I knew what bands were good. I knew what bands needed merch. I knew that I could talk to them. Like, all I had to do was get somebody's attention. I could, back then it was MySpace days. So I could just like go on MySpace and hit up 100 people in a day without them shutting me down or whatever it was. And I could just say like, hey, who does your merch? I love your band. That last album ruled. I like track 4. Like, I was being genuine. Like, I wasn't just being like, hey, let me do your shit. And then we would spark up a conversation, and I would like start talking to them. And I was like, once you get into like a half-hour convo with somebody, it's kind of slips in of like, well, who prints your stuff? I'm a screen printer. I would love to print your shirts. And then they're like, well, actually, I need like 100 of this, 100 of this, 100 of this for the next leg of shows. And then that's what we did. We printed them. We did everything we can to like get them the shirts on time. A lot of times, like, if it was somewhat near here, we would drive them to the show. We would drop them off. We would watch the show, talk to the band after, and then eventually that like snowballed into all these other things. And eventually you come across new markets where you're like, okay, like, this guy was in a band, but also his day job is at this large company, and he had an in with getting us to print their shirts. And then we were like, holy shit, like, the band world's fun, but like, they never want to pay their bill. They always need stuff like tomorrow, and like, you hustle hard to get the bands that you love, and then you find out that they just don't want to pay. It just got to be this thing where once we started doing these like bigger corporate jobs, we were like, cool, they 2 emails deep, they're like, here's my artwork, here's this invoices, or here's my sizes, and we send them invoices, and they paid it up front.
Yeah.
And we were like, we are doing this from now on.
Yeah.
So like, we still do bands today. It's just that we kind of weaned off and like focused more on people that were like, hey, we have really cool art and we want like a couple thousand of them, and
We got the money.
we got the money, right? Like, the long story that I just told, to get back to your question, was just kind of like the first 5 years in business, me and a couple other people just went hard on like, we're going to contact the people that we know to get business. And then after about 5 years, you get to the point where every sales customer service person has enough return business daily in their inbox that they don't really have to hunt for art. They don't have to hunt for jobs anymore. They just kind of do inbound. So here at year, whatever it is, 13 or 14 or whatever, we have just been really good at doing inbound all day. Like, we come in the morning, we all have like our 30, 40 emails or whatever, and we make invoices, we deal with the customers. At the end of the day, you're kind of somewhat done with it, and then you do it all over again the next day. Well, after COVID and all this other stuff, we realized that like some of our good customers either went out of business or they decided to cut marketing budgets and all this other stuff. So over the last year, I've got really big into let's start doing outbound again, because we haven't done it in years. But the people I've hired over the years have never done it at all. They've only ever done inbound. So we hired Kevin Baumgart from Set Sales, and he trained our people on doing outbound. And then, you know, the thing with that is that you have to have like a custom CRM that'll help you with leads and like managing those leads.
Yeah.
So I've got somebody right now like custom making a lead CRM and all this other stuff. So we're in the process of about to go hard again on outbound. It's just one of those things, like it's a different world today than it was when I was doing it in MySpace days, like Wild West, basically.
Well, what do you mean by custom CRM? You building it?
Yeah, so we tried a couple different things, and then I talked to a buddy of mine, one of those like Monday, where basically you can set it up, but like you have to build how it works. Basically, you have to like lay it out how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So I'm not good at that stuff at all. Like that's not my thing. So I hired it out and I said, this is what I wanted to do, make it happen. So that's what we're working on now. But we've also done a lot of other things too, like, you know, making promo boxes for customers we want to deal with, or the old school hitting them up on Instagram and like all this other stuff. We do that too. And I mean, we have good luck with it because I feel like people can go to the Upstate Merch Instagram and see what kind of work we do. And they're like, oh, cool. We would love to work with you because I want my stuff to look like that stuff that you just did.
Yeah.
So that's something I always tell people sales wise. It's just like, don't willy-nilly your Instagram or your portfolio or whatever it is. Like if you only want to do the comic book stuff, then just show comic book stuff on your Instagram. Don't do comic book one and the next one's like a plumber and the next one's a 5K and the next one's this. It's because then it's all over the place. Like if you want to just get that kind of work, just post that kind of work, and then you're going to be known. You're like that guy to go to for that kind of work.
What's your plan? I mean, going into the outbound sales, assuming that you're going to be successful with it, what's your plan for a big influx of orders? Because I'm assuming you don't want to do a second shift. You may not want to get another
That's the
auto.
problem.
So
Yeah.
do you just say, hey, we're booked 3 weeks, 4 weeks out, and you just keep making your booking more and more insane? Or do you at some point tell the outbound sales like, hey, you're doing too good? I mean, are you going to consider outsourcing? How would you handle that? Because what happens to us is we go and I freak out and I have a panic attack because we have like 11 jobs in a week, and I'm like, oh, we're going out of business this week. And then I go and I like call people and we go hard on something, and then the next week it's like, oh, maybe we should hire people. Oh, maybe we should.
It's chaos. Yeah.
And it's like, especially with these small teams, you can do not that many sales or even one client, and they wreck your entire schedule for 3-4 days. So what's your
I think this is a long way of doing this again, but like screen printing is my passion and it has been since I've gotten into it. And that's why like I genuinely like going to like most of the shows, and I try to do industry stuff because again, I just want to absorb as much like knowledge from people that have figured shit out that I haven't as much as possible. So the thing is with like doing the podcast and just in general before the podcast, like going around and doing industry stuff and all this other things is like I get, instead of being like a sneaker guy or a guy who likes to buy boats and like all this other stuff, like I don't like flashy things. I just buy cool screen printing shit. So like I'm like, okay, like I really want this piece of equipment and I want like the best of all those things. Over the years, we've gotten to the point where like we have really efficient tools and we have like all the things I want to be able to do like a lot of production. Well, like I told you before, like we're the kind of shop where we don't have like strict, like you have to get 30 jobs done today or we're going to lose the shop. It's on fire, all this other stuff. So I feel like what I've noticed over the last like 2 years is that production is like super chill. They're printing what we need to get printed because of what got sold, and they're just kind of out there doing things at their own pace. And I'm like, well, realistically, if I wanted to, I could probably double the amount of production we're doing with the same equipment, same people. Instead of setting the dwell at 8-10 seconds, they could set it at 4, do twice as many jobs. It's just right now they're just chill for the most part, unless it's like a, you know, you get those bubbles of like craziness in like summer months, but like for the most most part, we're just kind of like, cool, this is your chunk of jobs for today. And this is like each press has their own chunk of jobs to do. And it's not like they're sweating bullets. We're kind of just chilling, listening to music, printing shirts. I mean, it's not like they're super slow or anything by any means. Like they're hustling, they're working for sure. It's just that I've noticed that production is outpacing sales. So my thing with outbound is, okay, well, let's just get new clients and let's really focus like white glove service on the current clients that we do have. Like, let's make sure they're not going anywhere. They're solid. And when I say outbound, I'm not like, holy shit, go hit it hard. Like we're going to get anybody and everybody in here. I'm more like, hey, one of our really good clients is this kind of company. Like we have 2 of them. Well, there's 800,000 of them in the US or something. Like, let's go try to get 10 more.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we're super like looking for specific kinds of people. We're not like casting a wide net and seeing what happens.
Yeah, I'm curious all around this sales thing, right? So what are you doing in terms of like, are you hiring a salesperson, an appointment setter? What's your sales like? How was your mindset? Did you lay out like a sales process? Did you have like what you just said right there, a customer persona? Like what are you doing?
I have 2 things I want to try because again, we're not fully doing it yet. We're trying to get everything built, and then hopefully by the start of next month, we're starting it. And talking to friends and industry people, I've had mixed reviews of like what you should do. Even talking with Kevin, he was like, your inbound people are really good at taking inbound orders. They might not be great on the phone or following up with this and this. They're good at getting an email with artwork and order information, making the mock-ups, setting up all the stuff, sending them invoices, getting the payment, and then going to the next guy. That's what they're good at. They might not be good at being personable on the phone or making appointments and like all this other stuff. So we're going to try that out. So like our goal now is to be like, okay, 2 hours of every day is going to be outbound. So you've got the first 6 hours to like handle your inbox, and the last 2 hours of the day, you're going to like hit this lead list.
Who's that? Like somebody you designate or a salesperson?
We got 4 customer service people that just do inbound all day long. So those 4 people are basically going to schedule their day to be like, 6 hours is this and 2 hours is this. Then if like Cole said, if it gets to the point where we're just like, holy shit, the schedule's crazy, let's just shut outbound off for 2 weeks or whatever we want to do. Like we don't have to do this all the time. The goal is to do it daily, just so they get, or every other day, so they get the rhythm of like, this is just something that we do. You can't turn it on in the wintertime and be like, oh my God, there's no jobs, and just hit outbound really hard and then shut it off in the summer, because then you're going to be slow again in the wintertime. Like, you should do it consistently all year so you have jobs all year long. So the other side of that coin, like I said, is with testing, is I'm going to find out like if my inbound people just suck at it, like they're just not great at it, then I'll hire somebody and be like, okay, you're the lead generator. Like you take the lead list, you hit people up, you're good on the phone. When you get an order that somebody responds and says, yeah, I'm actually interested, like what do I have to do? They immediately forward that to the inbound people who are good at that. And the inbound people will do the quoting and the mock-ups and all that sort of stuff. We're going to try it. Like, I'm not an expert on it, but I've done a lot of research on it. With Kevin, he really helps you with like writing up, I say scripts, but it's not like a copy and paste thing. It's like we made scripts of like, if you get on the phone with somebody, this is kind of what you're saying. And then if they decide to say this, then it goes to this branch of this is the next thing to say, and so on. So
we've done the same thing with Kevin, and Kevin's awesome. He gave us the whole playbook on just how to just go try to do this.
Yeah.
With customized script. I'm curious why you didn't just do like a out the box CRM tool, like say like a HubSpot, or why you like building a custom CRM? Because
it's not necessarily custom. I don't want my people to have to think about it. I want them to basically sit down in the day, like they get here with their coffee, they sit at their desk, and then they literally have a task list. Like literally one of these CRMs is just like, hey, you've got 150 leads you were trying to hit in this market, like say breweries or whatever. Then all they have to do is go through, each one and be like, well, this one I'm on touch 3 where they need a phone call. Boom, they pick up the phone, they do that one. The next one is, hey, they need email number 4, send the email. They go to the next one, and it's like, what touch are they on? I don't want them to have to think about it. Like, I don't want them to have to be like, well, I got to go into this, and I got to move this here, and I got to do this thing and this thing. I want it literally to be a list of bing, bang, boom. And then after they hit that person up, they click it, it goes to the next step.
You keep talking about the lead list. Are you guys generating that in-house, or are you literally just, you're sitting there going like, here's all the people that I think we can serve, start calling them? Or are you getting that from some sort of source?
We have lead tools that we're using, but like again, we're focusing on specific people and specific businesses and markets. So like I might tell Alyssa at the front desk to be like, okay, your job for the next month is to make a lead list of breweries in the Northeast. So she'll go through and she'll research, like, say it's a lead generator that you just plug in the website and it gives you what the email addresses associated to that website. And then she'll add it to her own lead list in, like, say a Google sheet or whatever. And then once she's done with that list of say 100 people that she made over a couple of like 2 weeks, we'll take that CSV file and put it into the CRM and then go.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah.
It's been really good talking with you.
It's cool because I like to talk, so I would talk all day long if you guys wanted to.
Yeah,
so
you
it's
should
probably
Yeah,
better to
I-
stop.
podcast. Yeah.
Well, that's why I was like, dude, it's so nice to like you, Cole. You asked me to be on, and it's funny, like I had you on mine, but like again, like you were doing it before I was doing it, and like I listened to yours, and it before when I got to sit down and do this with you guys, I was like, it rules not to have to be prepared at all. Like I can just sit down and you guys can ask me questions, and then that's it. Like I don't have to do anything. So I was stoked to do this with you guys. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate fellow podcasters in this industry. So
Thanks so much to all the listeners for listening.